This episode is brought to you by High Point Market. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast. I am your co-host, Melissa. I'm here with my co-host, Laura. And we have one question for you today, because it's something that we're dealing with right now. And I'm sure everybody else has dealt with it at some point in time or another. What do you do with a client who will not stop revising? Right? What do you do when they're just like, oh, I might like this, or no, I want to see 20 other options, or maybe you've installed something and it's like, well, I guess that's okay, but what if we did something else? What do you as a designer do? What do you do, Laura?
My gosh. Okay. So that's a big question. There's a lot to talk about there. For us, we are all about the guided design experience. So we are guiding our clients through the entire project, start to finish, just like most designers are doing. We also don't have a specific design style. So we're very much client centric. So really, like, we will revise until the client is happy. That doesn't mean we're not guiding them, because we are. We are taking them from big picture and narrowing that down through our process to get to that final design. So that does not mean we're not constantly revising for some clients. Some clients need to see one design and they're good to go. Others really second guess themselves. I don't think this is a reflection on the designer all the time. It could be that the client just isn't confident in their own decisions. And so they need to see a lot of different options before they can feel like, okay, I've seen enough. I'm making an informed decision. For that client, a lot of times it's like, hey, I know, I reassure them. I know what's out there. I do this a lot. I go to design conferences 3 times a year. I see showrooms. I go to LA. I go to New York. I go overseas. Like, I know the options that are out there. What I'm showing you is what's best for your project, so you can trust in that. I will still show them a couple options if they need to see it, but I'm not going to show them 10. At that point, that's not a me problem. That's a them issue. And that may not be a good fit for how we work.
How do you
But I
have that
do want,
conversation with them if it does get to a point where it's just like, man, this is just so outside of our process?
yeah, I mean, just like I just said. So we do presentations that are really comprehensive as well. So we go from schematic design, which is more conceptual. So schematic is just showing them like design direction. We're talking generally about what they may like. What they don't like is often easier to discuss. They can say like, I don't like this fabric, more than they can say, I like this. They're much quicker to pull things than they are to approve things at that point. So schematic gets us on the right track. When we get to design development, where we're selecting exact items, we're pointing back to schematic when we're presenting that. We're saying, hey, you liked this. So now I'm showing you, you liked this overall vision. Now I'm showing you this piece because it really fits our original vision. Let me tell you why. And so you're just informing them and educating them as to why you selected this piece. They may not like every piece I'm showing them at design development. If they did, that'd be a miracle. What I like to tell them at that time is if we are like 70% of the way there, we are doing really, really well. Some clients, it's 50%. Some clients, it's 90%. Great. But if we're 70%, we're doing really well. What I like to discourage them from doing is picking out like this one piece and saying like, I just don't love that. And I tell them it's because if they pull on that thread, the design over in this room that you may not even be thinking about is going to unravel. So I like for them to see it big picture. But I still may show them a couple of options for, like, let's say there's a nightstand and I may not even be sure which piece I want. And so I'll show them too. Like, I like both of these equally. I think they're both really wonderful and beautiful. And this one's doing this and this one's doing that. What do you think? For those that just cannot decide, man, at some point I'll just say like, hey, we are 70% of the way there. These are the items we've selected that we all feel really good about, including you. Let's go ahead and release those. Then we're making progress. We have our momentum. Then there's this 30% over here that's probably going to need to be reselected. I find that at that point, if they're ordering and they're making progress, then they're going to feel more confident in making reselections on those few pieces that still need attention. That could be a good way to do it. That's how we're doing it on one project right now.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like we kind of unraveled a little bit in the schematic design phase? Like, has there ever been a time that when we're putting together that design program, we've missed something? And so like you're going back to reference something, but you're just like, man, maybe I missed it from the start. Does that ever happen?
I mean, I would not say never, but rarely.
Okay.
No, not really, because at that point you're pretty general. So unless the client just goes through an existential crisis and they're like, I know and this has happened, like, I know we designed urban loft, but now I'm really feeling New York City nightclub. Like, it's a very different aesthetic. And so that's a redesign. So no, typically we're not like concept is pretty general. So we're not missing. And they're approving it at that point.
And that's a good question that I want to talk about because we've talked about this a little bit in the community is how do we do our approvals? Because it can, we have designers in the community who are working at every stage. They're working on huge projects like we are, or, they're doing something maybe a little bit smaller. They're only working on accessories. And so then they're kind of doing one-off approvals, which causes a lot of stress and, and anxiety for the designer. So people are always asking, how do we do it?
I mean, I think, well, to answer that last question, doing like one thing at a time is really tough. And clients second guess that much more than they would a comprehensive design. So let's say you're doing a stair runner and this happens to us. So we've installed the entire house and then they're like, oh, let's do a stair runner now. Okay. We do a stair runner, gets installed. The client can struggle big time with accepting that one piece that came in later. They second guess. And so we ask them to live with it. Live with it for a couple of weeks, live with it for a month and see how you feel. Because a lot of times it's just the shock of having something new introduced. And
Oh,
they're
yeah.
just like, man, I feel like that wasn't a good choice. Like I shouldn't have done that. They should have. They just need to live with it and like simmer on it and they're going to feel good about it. For accessories, a lot of times accessories are so personal to the client. So we don't order them ahead of time. We don't source them early. We source them 2 days before install and we source them locally. So we are doing retail, we're doing some to the trade, but most of the time it's like small shops that are more curated, very local. And so we're selecting those pieces, we're installing them with the furnishings, but the client can choose what they keep and what we return. And that makes it a lot more flexible for them. And then we are not on the line financially on our end because we can return those pieces that don't work. Um, does that answer that question?
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about designers? And I ask this just a lot of the things that I've heard in the community. Including revisions in your contract. Now we bill hourly. So we always say one of the wonderful things
Yes.
about billing hourly is that we can just say yes and keep going and keep going. But sometimes when it comes to revisions, that can be really frustrating for us because we want to keep momentum on the project. And it can either slide one way where, more revisions can either be really expensive for the client, which of course means more revenue for us, but then the client gets frustrated, or it can get to a point where actually we make less money because then it becomes a value sort of situation. So how do you feel about including those kinds of things in contracts? Revision numbers.
So, well, like you said, we're hourly. So we are anticipating revisions and we can revise multiple times. We do like we can. Typically we're revising a max twice. And that's not everything. Like I said, we're 70% of the way there. We may need two revisions on the back end for those little pieces that the client's just not sure about. And so, yeah, we may revise a couple of times. And I think that when you're hourly, you're covered for your time. The client can revise as much as they want. We're not taking advantage of that. We still want to get them to an endpoint where they are decided, we're on order, and we have an install date. Like that is the goal. We aren't going to revise into infinity because then no one's happy.
Right.
If you are billing a fixed sum or a flat fee and you've included the number of revisions in your contract, which you have to, because otherwise you're revising into infinity on your dime. It's just eating away at your profit. Um, I don't know. I feel like that's a very dangerous place to be. And that's why we do hourly. It's dangerous because even if you include 2 revisions in there, you don't know, is it a full revision? Is it a partial revision? Is it 10 pieces? Is it 50 pieces? And then what if you revise and they're still not happy? Do you just
Right.
say like, sorry, that's your one revision. We're done now. Or are you like, well, now we have to revisit the contract and I'll do another revision for you. They're still not happy because you have to charge them more. So you're either losing money or your client's unhappy because you're charging them more. Most designers that I know would just lose the money and revise again because we're people pleasers and we want our clients to be really thrilled. Um, I don't like fix sum for that reason. Unless you're just so confident and you've been doing this for 10 years, 20 years, and you know you're going to get there with every single client on 1 revision or 2 revisions. Um, it's also kind of dangerous too, because what if you do include 2 revisions, your client's happy at 1, they're like, "Hey, I didn't need that extra revision. Are you going to credit me?" Like, I don't know. I think you should bill hourly. I think you should revise as much as your client needs to while keeping your momentum.
Well, to play devil's advocate on that, what if, has a client ever gone back and said, okay, well, it took you an extra hour to source that, so that cost me $250 for you to source another loan? Like,
That's a great question, and that's all about how you present your work in your invoice. We are not breaking it down to the point it's like, "Hey, this pillow took us 2 hours to design. We selected 3 fabrics, and then we did a drawing for it showing, here's the main fabric, here's how it lays out, here's the trim 1, here's the trim 2, it needs this kind of fill." The client doesn't see that. We keep it pretty general in our billing to where it's like design meeting, design collaboration, design production. So there's just so much that goes into design production that they would never pick out, like, why did it take you an hour to choose the tile for this bathroom?
right. Because it might,
They don't have,
you know?
right. And they don't have the context for what we do day in and day out to understand how long things take. So we don't frame it that way. So I think it's a lot about framing.
Yeah. So what I'm understanding is that really it's about setting all of this stuff up at the front end, setting the expectations of.
100%.
And I think the other thing too is that what we have to realize sometimes is we don't work well for every single client. Not every client is for us.
That's
Our
right.
process is for the people who really like our process. And when it works, it's beautiful. It is perfection. And then when it doesn't work, gosh, it really sucks when it happens late in the project because it's just like, man, maybe we weren't a good fit for each other. And
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Or it could be that the client just needed extra attention.
yeah.
They just did. And we're happy to do that. I mean, we may lose a little bit of time. The client may be frustrated, but I don't think, like, with the way that we work, we're really catering to them. So anyone they work with would have had the same issue, probably. Like, if they need to see 10 options, like, we're to the end of the project, we're choosing a nightstand for a guest room, and they just can't make that decision. I feel like that's going to be a problem with anyone they're working with, not just
That
us.
is a
Like,
you problem. That is not an us problem.
right. And so we are happy to select 10 nightstands until they find the right one that feels good to their heart. Like, we will do that. And we'll tell them, like, I mean, I wouldn't show them 10. I would say, hey, here's 2. This one works better. And if they're like, man, I'm not sure, that's okay. We can always, like, table this for now and come back after installation. I can put something in there for install, see what you think. We may just choose something locally and install it on approval. Like, we don't do that a lot because we just don't need to, but we may do it on that particular case.
That's the thing. It doesn't happen very often. It's just that when it does happen, it just feels awful.
It's stressful. Yeah, it's super stressful because then, like, as designers, again, we're people pleasers. So we're like, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? Am I a terrible designer? Am I like, do I suck now? Like, what? 20 years later, do I now suck? Like, what's happening? And I honestly don't ever feel that way myself now because I'm like, no, that's not a me problem. That's a you problem. But to, like, a younger designer or a newer designer, yeah, I've been there and I've been like, dude, I'm failing. Like, what? How am I failing on these last 2 pieces? You're okay. It happens to all of us. Like, even if you just don't buy that piece for them and they find it themselves, that's okay too. But we're also like, at least I can be pretty lax about that. Like, obviously, I don't want them to choose everything for themselves. That's our job.
Right.
But even in our contract, we say, like, you are not obligated to buy this from us. So
That's true. That's a good point. Yes.
you are, there's no obligation here. We're going to show you what we love for you based on what you're telling us, what we've learned about you. We're going to show you the best design possible. But if we just can't get there on a couple pieces, that's okay. We don't have to buy them for you. You can do that on your own. You can call your sister in law or your mother in law and go shopping. Have at it. You can shop, send me a picture, and I can say, "Ooh, I love that. You should grab it." So we leave it really flexible, and I think that's a lot to do with, like, our hourly. We're
Hmm.
just we're flex because we're hourly. We never say no, and that's a big selling point for our clients. We don't have to say no to you. No, it's not in our scope. No, that's not in our contract. No, I'm not gonna do that without you paying me extra, or I'm just losing money because 'cause I'm doing it for free now. We're
Yeah.
hourly. We always say yes.
It seems so transactional. I think, and of course it is, like, duh,
Ugh,
it's a
I know.
business.
It's a job,
But
it's a business, but yes, I get what you're saying. Like, if you've gotta go
yeah,
back to your contract all the time with a client, ugh, sucks, or you lose money,
right,
which, let's be real, that's what you're gonna do because 'cause you're not gonna wanna go back to that client and ask for more money.
right. But I think what you talked
Bill hourly.
about too is establishing trust, right? I mean, like if you're allowing people to have some sense of freedom and having that kind of relationship, I think we develop a lot of trust with our clients from the very beginning. And
Yeah,
hopefully that's the reason why by the end there's like, you know what? I trust you. You think that that's going to work with the
yes.
design? Fine. I'm going to include it.
Yeah, and I mean, we are a business, clearly we wanna make a profit, but we're also, like, I'm not gonna push someone, I'm not like a pressure salesperson. Um I'm gonna show them what I think is wonderful, and that's what our design team does too. We show you what we think is wonderful for you. If you don't love it, it's not personal. Like, I'm not taking that personally. It's your house. That's okay. I'm gonna show you something else based on your feedback from that piece. And if I can never get there, that's okay too. Like, I may think of you in a year from now when I'm shopping in Paris and send you a picture of something I saw and said, "Hey, did you ever find that piece? Because I love this for you." That's okay.
Great.
Yeah. So I don't know. We just don't pressure. And so but you're like you've said, like, I don't know, I don't feel like we've had to. There's
It
some
doesn't happen
clients
very
that go
often.
off the rails.
It's just like sometimes when it happens, I'm like, man, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. And then you
Ugh,
can't kind of
sucks.
second guess yourself. But in
Yeah.
all of the designers in our community and all the designers that I've met over the past 8 years in this industry, I can't say a one who wasn't talented enough or good enough as a designer. Like that's never been the issue. But I think that sometimes even like you said, you've been in the industry for 20 years, you're just like, man, was that me? Did I?
No.
And I would say like 99.9% of the time, no.
Yeah, no, I mean, or like you said, it could be there have been times that early on in the project, and this is a while ago, that you just realize, "Hey, I'm not a good fit for this client," or "That client's not a good fit for me aesthetically." Like, we're never gonna get there. We're not gonna see eye to eye. And then we've parted ways. Either they've parted ways with me or vice versa. And that's okay. It's always been amicable. It's not like
Yeah.
contentious typically. Like, we're just not gonna get there. That's okay.
And when does that
Um,
typically happen? Is that around concept? Like it happens early?
early,
Yeah.
early. Yes. And that's why we follow the process we do because we can catch it at concept. If we're going back and forth in concept and not getting there, then that's not going to work later in the process when we're really nailing things down. Because concept is pretty general and pretty open. So yes, it would happen then. And it could be just like personality wise, you're not meshing, and that's okay too. Usually now we can figure that out at and like when they're a potential client before they're even a client. Because our intake is pretty long. Like our interview process is pretty long, them and us. And so we get to know them pretty well, even up at the front end. But yeah, you can get in a concept or get into it and just be like, "Ooh, this ain't working." Yeah. And then you just break up in as nicely as possible.
Yeah. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
We've had clients that have been referred to us, from other designers who are just like, our process isn't working, but maybe they might work with you. And
Yeah.
it can go either way. Some have been really fabulous, and then others, that person just maybe doesn't want to work with a designer.
Yeah. We do have a project that we're working on right now that the client, like every decision, every piece of furniture feels monumental to her. And it like she doesn't want to make a wrong choice. They're doing this one time. They're not doing this again later. Like this is her one shot to design her home. And so every choice feels really, really big. And so we've had more presentations than we normally would have, and we're having another one. So, but this is probably like presentation 4 where we normally would do 2. So presentation 4, what we're doing, we are coming with our presentation. It's visual. We're showing her, okay, everything that is not in a red box, we're putting a red border around some pieces. Everything that's not in a red border is something you really love. You've approved it verbally. You feel good about it. That's probably 70% of the pieces. Again, like that's our magic number. That's 70%. We feel good about those. We can order those. Anything with a red box around it are pieces that you're not sure about, but we're still showing them in context within the room together. These are still in question. These are approved. So then she can see it in full, like, oh, I have approved a lot. Do feel really good about those. Maybe I feel okay about some of these pieces that are still in red. Maybe I don't, but at least we can do 70% of it. Like, hey, we're keeping our momentum. We're going to go ahead and order these. Here's the budget for those. We're going to take a deposit on that. We're going to order. I like to do it that way because I do feel like if we can get to that point, then we can get to the end.
Yeah.
She can feel like, okay, I have made some decisions. I have let that control go for those pieces. I can get to the end of this and feel good about it. But I get it. Like when you're spending this much money, it is
Big
a big,
investment. Yeah. And it's at home.
yep,
It's
big
so
investment,
cute.
but it's also just a piece of furniture.
Right.
And that's why you have us, is we're here to tell you you're making the right choice.
Yeah.
Yep.
And sometimes you don't know what you don't know, you don't know what you don't like and what you do like until somebody who's an expert shows it to
Yep.
you and makes
Yeah.
a good case for it.
Yeah. But it's okay if you don't like something. We can always reselect it. But even if it goes in your house and you live with it for 5 years and you're like, I never loved that piece. Fine, switch it. Sell it on Facebook Marketplace and switch that thing.
Somebody will love it.
Somebody's going to love that. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, with those indecisive clients, sometimes they just need a little push. Sometimes they need a big picture, like a recalibration and some encouragement. Sometimes they just won't get there.
Yeah. Yep. And then they're not your client, and that's
And then they're
okay
not
too.
your client. Yeah, they're gonna go find their bliss somewhere else, and that's okay too.
Yeah. Or maybe they're so controlling they need to just do it on their own.
Yeah, that could be. Could be, could be. It's not gonna turn out as well, but yes.
No. And then they'll come back to you as the designer and be like, hey, so you know what? This is harder than I thought. And
Yes.
will you work with me now?
Yeah, I do think though that like showing them everything in context, so showing them everything together oftentimes is the answer. Showing them at a piece at a time is really hard for most homeowners to comprehend.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So if it's not your process already to show them in full, the full design, I would seriously consider making that your process. A piece at a time, most people can't decide.
Yep. I
Yeah.
agree.
So hope this is helpful.
We're going to have to talk about presentations next time. I have a feeling that's going to end up being a question.
Happy to do that. We can show you that all day. We'll pull up a shared screen and show presentation.
That's a good one. All right.
All right.
Now we
Next
have our
time.
ideas next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast, coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on designdash.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.